Demonstrations after the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict remained largely peaceful Friday night. A Wisconsin jury found the teen not guilty on all charges earlier in the day. Rittenhouse was on trial for shooting 3 men during a protest after the police shooting of Jacob Blake last year in Kenosha. 2 of the men died. Rittenhouse claimed self-defense. There was a small, peaceful protest in Kenosha after the verdict was announced, and demonstrators stayed calm at events in several other cities across the country. A few protests were less civil. Police in Portland, Oregon declared a riot when a couple hundred protesters broke windows, started fires, and threw objects at police. And in New York City, people marched to the Brooklyn Bridge and blocked traffic. CBS News correspondent Nancy Chen has more reaction from the trial.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Kyle H. Rittenhouse, not guilty.
Kyle Rittenhouse cried, collapsing onto the table after jurors found the 18-year-old not guilty on all charges. Overcome with emotion, Rittenhouse needed help getting back to his chair.
Charges against the defendant on all counts are dismissed with prejudice.
The teen was facing 5 felony counts, including first-degree intentional homicide, which carried a life sentence. Rittenhouse's attorney, Mark Richards, was asked about Rittenhouse leaving the courthouse a free man.
A huge sense of relief for what the jury did to him today. He wishes none of this would have ever happened.
A pivotal moment in the trial was the day Rittenhouse took the stand and broke down during questioning.
Take a deep breath, Kyle. When we prepared Kyle and we worked on his testimony, there were things we couldn't talk about in my office because it got too emotional and he couldn't handle it. He's in, counseling for PTSD.
The trial garnered attention nationwide. President Biden said he understood the verdict would leave many Americans feeling angry and concerned, including himself.
Well, look, I stand by what the jury has concluded. The jury system works and we have to abide by it.
The jury of 7 women and 5 men deliberated for about 26 hours. They believed Rittenhouse's claims that he acted in self-defense when he killed 2 men and wounded a 3rd during unrest in Kenosha last year.
I didn't do anything wrong. I defended myself.
During 8 days of testimony, prosecutors tried to portray Rittenhouse as an instigator, armed with an AR-15 style weapon who provoked the shootings.
No justice! No peace!
Outside the courthouse, friends and family members of the men who died say the verdict was unjust.
I am heartbroken.
Susan Hughes is the great aunt of Anthony Huber, the second man killed by Rittenhouse.
Do you think this was a fair verdict?
I think they tried. I like the fact that there must have been someone fighting for us because it wouldn't have taken them that long.
As for what's next, Rittenhouse's attorney says he will likely move out of this area over safety concerns and that he wants to become a nurse. Nancy Chen, CBS News, Kenosha, Wisconsin.
For more on this, I'd like to bring in Justin Blake. He's the uncle of Jacob Blake, who was paralyzed in a police shooting that originally sparked those protests in Kenosha. Justin, welcome. Before we get into this case, I just want to start off by asking, how's your nephew, Jacob?
Assalamu alaikum. Good morning. Grand Rising. Mentally, he's on top of the world. You've never met such a hardened warrior like this young guy, my nephew. He every day he's concerned about his mothers and his siblings more than he is about himself. And I think that speaks volumes about what kind of young man he is.
And let's get to what's happening right now. How do you and your family feel about the verdict?
Well, personally, I think it was an atrocity, a misservice of justice. This case set precedents for 17-year-old individuals to take the cities across this great nation, armed with AR-15s, able to take somebody's life and walk clear and free if you look white. You're Caucasian, these are the things you can do. Because there's no African-American on this planet or in this nation that could have carried an AR-15 looking like they were 13 down the street amongst hundreds of people that were peacefully protesting, murder somebody. Bond money came from skinheads, the Ku Klux Klan, $2 million. This kid grew up absorbing and dieting on the ideology of these type of organizations. And he came back and manifested. He really put it on the ground and did what they talk about, which is hurting African Americans, minorities, and those who support.
Justin, you're speaking about his race and the effect that you had, or effect that rather it had on this trial. How much of a role do you think race ultimately played in the outcome?
Well, let's look. He was connected to these organizations that don't believe minorities, African Americans, and others deserve to enjoy the air and the freedoms of the United States of America. The judge had his hand on the scale the entire time, not allowing evidence to be seen and heard. The young man clearly stated 40 days out, he couldn't wait to shoot somebody with this particular gun. And only 30 or 40 days later, he actually did this. The evidence with him in the bar throwing up a Proud Boys sign prior and after they murdered these people, how is that not inadmissible evidence? How could it be found inadmissible evidence, rather? It should have been brought into the court. We believe the people, I mean, when you go into a court situation that's 25 to life and you walk out with nothing, zero, no counts on any charges, were found something below that would have wound this young man up in jail. It hasn't been done. I don't know who's checked the record of this nation's and state. Who's walked into a courtroom that was going to jail for 25 to life and walked away clean free? I think it would be a small, minute number that would be insignificant, and he's in that number.
I wonder, have you spoken with the families of the men that Rittenhouse killed?
We spoke to the fiance and girlfriend. We're trying to be their support system. We spoke to one of the aunts, I believe, of Anthony. They're beautiful people. They're beautiful, hardworking families. These are middle-class people that were supporting the fight for African-descended rights, using their First Amendment rights in Kenosha. They were met in the middle of the street and shot down and murdered by this young man, and he is walking clear and free. The America, this is showing the underbelly of what America has truly been the last 100, 200 years. The underbelly is racist as hell. This country was taken from the Native American, the natives that were here. We came in and provided 300 to 400 years of free slavery. That's the legacy of this country. It's been flossed over for so long, and now we truly are seeing the historical ramifications of what they've done in this country, and that they would allow a 17-year-old to march around the city of Kenosha looking like he was 13. There was a man that came in front of the courthouse the other day carrying this exact same rifle that he had. He was surrounded by the sheriffs and asked, "Do you have correct paper?" How come they didn't do that
Justin,
that night?
We only have time for really one more question, and I just want to know, what's your response to the people out there who believe that Rittenhouse was really defending himself and believe that the verdict is fair?
You can't defend the defenseless. This young man left out of Illinois, retrieved an illegal gun, firearm here. They can talk about self-defense till they're blue in the face, just like Jacob Blake was shot in the back and everybody saw it, and the police officer was never prosecuted. We want to believe what our eyes tell us. And this young man was guilty as hell, and the officer that shot Jacob Blake 7 times in the back was guilty as well.
Justin Blake, thank you very much for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
Thank you.